Good afternoon. We'll begin today's service in honoring Mr. Julius Block, where I'm going to recite 3 psalms, first in Hebrew, and then we're going to translate one of them in English. Ashrei ha'ish asher lo yalach b'atzas rishoyim, u'v'derech hatoyim lo ya'amod, u'v'moshav leitzim lo yashov, kiyim b'seres adonai chevtzoi, u'v'seroso yehege yamam v'loila. V'hoya ke'etz shasul al pal gemoyim, asher piryo yitain b'itoi, v'aleho lo yibol v'chol asher yaseh yatzliach. Lo yichein horishoyim, kiyim kamoitz asher tidfen ruach, al kein lo yikum rishoyim b'mishpat, v'chatoyim b'adas tzadikim, ki yedei adonai derech tzadikim, v'derech rishoyim tovet. Seems like everybody understood what I said, so I'll go to the next one. Am natseach, mizmor leDavid Adonai, mi agur bo yolecha, mi yishkoim b'har kodechecha. Hoylech tamim ufoyel tzedek, v'dei ve'emes b'lvavoi, v'lei rogal al lishoinoi, v'lei osel re'eu ra, v'cherper le'nosa al kroivoi, nivze be'enav nimas, v'esirei Adonai yechabed, nishba l'hora lo yomer, kasper le'nosam b'neshech, v'shoichet al noki lo yilokach, oise eile lo yimet lo olam. And Psalm 23, Mizmor leDavid, Adonai ro'i lo yechsor, b'nois desha yarbitzeni, amei minuchas yinahaleni, nafshi yesheviv yancheni b'maglei tzedek l'man shemoi, gam ki elech b'geit samoves lo yiroro ki ato yimodi. Shiftecha u'mishantecha hemo yinachmuni, taroich lefonai shulchan neged soiroi, dishanta b'shem en roishi koisi revoya. Ach toiv v'chesed yirdefuni kol yemei chayoi, v'shafti b'beis Adonai l'orech yomim. A song of David. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not lack. God causes me to lie down in lush pastures. God leads me beside tranquil waters. God restores my soul and guides me in the righteous paths for God's name's sake. Though I walk through the valley of shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your scepter and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in full view of my adversaries. You have anointed my head with oil, my cup overflows. May only goodness and kindness pursue me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord for length of days. We're gathered here today to say our final goodbyes to a man that lived 94 full years. There's a story said that somebody happened to pass by in a cemetery and sees that many people in the cemetery were buried at a very young age, 6, at 7, at 12, and decided to ask somebody from the community what happened in those years that people have passed away in such short years. And the answer that was given to him was that those people actually lived very long years. They lived close to 100 years old. But when they wrote on their tombstone that they lived 6 or 7 years, is because most of their years were wasted. Maybe from the 90 years, 6 or 7 could be counted as living. When the Bible talks about Abraham, it says Abraham became old and he came with his days. Avram Zaken Ba Bayamim. He's old and came with his days. Every day had 24 hours. Every hour had 60 minutes. And every minute had 60 seconds. We're talking about a man that lived 94 full years. Didn't waste any time. Cared about everything. Things that nobody else cares about. And maybe had a different way of expressing himself than the way most of us would do today. But he came from a different era, came from a different time. And it's difficult to try to put it in a couple sentences to try to put forth all of his life. As well as what you see in cemeteries, there's a dash. When it mentioned on the tombstone, you'll see it says the year that they were born and the year of passing. And everybody's dash is the same size. But everybody's dash represents a whole different story. So in order to properly eulogize, we're going to hear from his daughter and from his granddaughter. They're going to share with us, and perhaps we could learn greater lessons as the purpose. The verse in Ecclesiastes says the purpose of going to a funeral is to take back a lesson. It's a fact. It tells us it's better to go to a funeral than to go to a house of joy, to go to a wedding. There's something you could take back. There are great lessons that we're going to learn from him today. And all of us could take these lessons to heart, perhaps emulate him in some way, or try to act like him, at least the good parts that you want to take. And this could help him for his goal. And I'd like to shed some light on a day like today to explain what's the purpose of all of these traditions, all of these mitzvahs that we do after a person's passing. Many people believe that once a person dies, it's over, they're not here anymore. And I do hear this from people often, that nothing matters, let's move on, life will go on just like it was before. But in the Jewish tradition, we believe that there's a purpose for everything. There's a purpose why we were born, there's a purpose why we're alive, and there's a purpose why we die. It's all part of one big picture that we don't understand. And the number one thing that causes death is being born. So you know that everybody's going to get there. And the question is how we're going to live our life, what are we going to accomplish in this world, and what do we leave over to continue living? If we think about it, every person is a combination of a humanistic life, a humanistic body, and a soul. A soul is part of God. When God created Adam, he put into him a soul. That's something that can't make any mistakes. It's something that's pure, something that will go back to its maker. Every morning, we say a prayer thanking God for restoring our soul to ourselves. By putting a soul into a human being, we sometimes make mistakes, and we drag this soul through the mud. We're kind of expected to make mistakes. We have free will. We will make mistakes, and actually today, right now, we're in the midst of the 10 days of repentance, which Yom Kippur, which will be Tuesday night, Wednesday, is Yom Kippur, is a day of God forgiving us. He knows that we make mistakes. But why would God put into something that's completely pure, never made any mistakes, can't make any mistakes, and put it into a human being and put it down on this world where it might not be returned the same condition that he got it? And the answer, perhaps I'll try to explain it with an engine. I know you guys all have Bugattis. Bugatti is the fastest car out there. It's cost a couple $1 million. If somebody just purchases a Bugatti engine, it's around $1 million. I mean, Kenny will get you a better price if you need. And you have it in your warehouse. It's brand new. There's nothing wrong with it. It's perfect. As soon as you put it into a car, go around the block a couple times, you see how good it is, you see how powerful it is, and you say, you know what, it's too expensive. Let's return it. Let's just put it back in the box and send it back to the manufacturer. The price went down. It's significantly not worth the same amount how much it was worth before. But if you're only going to keep it on a crate and leave it in your warehouse, you'll never see how powerful this is. You'll never get to see the full potential of this engine. 1,000 times over, when you think about a soul that cannot do, it's a robot. It does everything proper, it doesn't have a reason not to do it. When God puts a soul into a human being, and now there are struggles. Every day, every minute, there's something telling you to do good, and there's a counterpart that's telling you, nah, not today, tomorrow. Cut off the guy. Don't answer back. Don't let the guy embarrass you. And we struggle with this every day. So we have free will. We have something pushing us to the right and something pushing us to the left. And we do go both ways, but at least we're in a struggle, and we have something to look forward to fighting this battle. What we do as why we live, we take a soul that's completely pure and which seems that it cannot grow anymore. It's at its highest potential, and we elevate it and make it greater. The only way to make a soul greater and return it to the maker better the way we got it is by putting it into a human being. And through the struggles, we elevate it. We become greater. We struggle through it, but we make it stronger. We make it better. After 94 years, Mr. Julius Block was able to return his soul a lot greater than he received it. But it's not over yet. Now that he has passed on, he leaves over a beautiful legacy, and he leaves over a lot of friends, and he has taught a lot of great values to so many of us. And we will hear more stories, and throughout the years, constantly things will come up. How would he do it? How did he do it? Or stories about him, and a lot of things that he did the family doesn't know, and I also don't know. Don't worry. It's not like I know and I'm not telling you. You'll find out. But we could all take lessons, and we could all take upon ourselves some mitzvah, some good deed, something that we can try to help ourselves, but do it in his honor, do it in his memory. And by doing that, this will help his soul go higher and higher. And it's kind of ironic that a day that you would think is a sad day, the anniversary of somebody's passing, in a lot of synagogues, you'll find people on the day of their father or mother's passing, they'll bring a bottle of bourbon and kichel and herring and say, let's have a toast. They say, Gilachayim, and they say, may the neshama have an aliyah. May the neshama be elevated. Because we, every day, are going to be, when we continue our life, every day we do good deeds, it goes automatically, it has an effect on him and elevates him. So although today is a sad day, and today is a day that we say goodbye, it's also a beginning of a new era for him, that he's counting on all of us. And we could do a lot more for him that we thought we could do. We could do a lot more for him now because he's actually depending only on us. He cannot do it on his own anymore. So by taking these lessons, and hopefully we'll hear some more today, it will definitely have a great help for him and a great help for us. It's not just for him. Anytime you do something good that has an effect on your parents, your grandparents, your great-grandparents, thousands and thousands of souls are looking forward for us to do good deeds. I do want to mention a lesson that we can learn from Kenny, his son, who ever since he sold his gas station, he was a good son beforehand. At least but he didn't want to admit to on that originally. But he made sure to stop by his father's house every day, in the morning, in the afternoon, make sure his father goes to Mark's, that was his favorite place, make sure that he takes his father out for dinner. He knew what his father likes, and these little things that might seem little to some of us, this meant everything to his father. And sometimes it's difficult. You always find parents taking care of their children, but to find children taking care of their parents is a big struggle. And especially when you're married. The fact that Sue not only allowed him, but helped him, and Sue was his help in all of these good deeds, is a big mitzvah, and we should all take a lesson, and hopefully we're all able to do this for somebody else, to do this mitzvah of helping somebody when they're not able to do it on their own. He didn't take anything for granted. You know, the story in the Bible about Jacob going back because he had a couple vessels he left over, little shot glasses he left over on the other side, where he struggled with an angel. And that kind of is the same story over here. Every little penny counted. Every Everything was important to him, and it's not a big. It's not something to look down. It's something to look up to. He appreciated every little thing that he had. He didn't take things for granted. When he was in the hospital, making sure that you water his plants. He didn't making sure that the plants don't die because he's in the hospital. Make sure you pull the weeds out. My garden looks okay. Every little thing these are stuff that meant very important to him. And the fact that he had his way of doing it, I can't explain. This is just, that's that generation. They used to do it their way, and there's no way of changing it. You could try as much as you want. You'll never be able to succeed. They're already set in their ways. It is important to know that throughout life we make mistakes. I could only talk about myself. I can't talk for others. But we all make mistakes. And when you go up to heaven, when you're returning your soul, we try to have our soul returned in the best condition possible. And any person that has something against a person, it could hold them back from reaching the full potential. And throughout life, when you make mistakes, people are upset with you and they don't want to forgive you, and vice versa. So it's customary to ask everybody, if God forbid you had something against him, to forgive him and give it up, make it easier for him. People don't always understand how you feel. People can't always understand what's going on in you. And vice versa, we ask him to forgive if there's anyone that he was upset at, there's somebody that hurt him, that he should forgive them as well, that, it should just be easier for everybody. He grew up here in Cleveland, and things were a little more difficult back then. He was known as Yitzi, but his name is Yehuda ben Moshe, and it's important to mention his Hebrew name. That's the name that he's going to be using up in heaven. That's the soul doesn't usually use other names but their Hebrew name. So we mentioned their Hebrew name as well as we're going to say a memorial prayer towards the end of the service, and we're going to mention the Hebrew name. I want to mention for the children and the grandchildren, this that we're all going to be doing in his memory is the little bit that we can do. But for you, every little thing you do has an effect on him. Definitely all the good deeds that we do, being that you wouldn't be here today without him. So he is, if he would have to pay all the mistakes that you make, he definitely is going to be able to bear the fruits of all the good deeds that you've been doing and that you're going to continue doing. And this is not only for you, this is for your children, your grandchildren. And it's a big burden. It's a big responsibility, but it's a great responsibility. And it keeps the connection with you a lot closer. Now your father's with you 24/7. Until now you were able to press ignore on the phone. Not possible anymore. I mean, you could try to do it, but it's not going to work. He's with you, and every little thing you do, don't think that this is a small mitzvah, this is not important. We only do big mitzvahs. Every small thing is a big deal. Putting a smile on somebody's face is a big deal. And to him, this is everything that he has. So he's very blessed to have such a beautiful legacy and to have so many friends, even at the age of 94. That's one of the big struggles of living a long life, that you don't have any friends at your funeral. But hey, he pulled it off. So let's just hope that his neshama goes higher and higher, and we all do something in his honor, in his memory forever, and hopefully we will reunite again at the coming of Mashiach at the resurrection of the dead. I'd like to ask his daughter Judy to come up, and then Sarah, his granddaughter, is going to come up to share with us some thoughts.
Thank you, everyone, for being here to share this special day to honor Julius, my father. Teachings and lessons. We all share a memory or a relationship with Julius. All of us are here because we know him or are one of his children. It's the stories and the experiences that we can share with each other to keep his memory alive. I am grateful for that. My best teachers may have been the ones that I resisted the greatest. Their techniques might not have felt right at the time, but I usually found that the outcome was effective. My father knew many people in our community and was well respected in his field. I came to recognize that he knew what he was doing and he did it well. He was a painter. As a parent, a companion, a friend, and a teacher, I recognize that there are peaks and valleys every day, and how I ride this roller coaster of life will ultimately be the way I show up for myself and others. The dance isn't always easy to stay standing on 2 feet. I may fall sometimes, but my father taught me how not to give up, but to stand tall and keep moving forward. He also instilled a great, strong work ethic and a sense of responsibility. The last recent days were probably the most precious because not only was I able to spend time with my brother Ken and my father, but I was also able to grow closer to them because of the deep love that we have for each other. My father endured a lot of tolerance, pain. He had his ups and downs with his arthritis and different ailments, but he never gave up. And that was amazing. And I respect him so much for that. And he taught me so much through that experience in his journey. He might not be physically here, but he's still with me and will always be with me forever. I cherish the memories and the lessons that he left me. God bless him and rest in peace.
Hey, hi, everybody. Thanks for coming. As my father, I'm not a type of person that gets up and talks in front of a crowd or write down notes and stuff. My dad never did that either. But I'm proud of the way we sent him off. We did it the way he would have wanted it done. When he got the diagnosis, he knew it was the end. But he was a tough cookie all the way up to the end. But he knew leukemia was it. It was a death sentence. And at that time, I asked him, any requests or anybody? You want me to go tell anybody to screw themselves? You want me to call people? And I had him laughing at the hospital. I brought a lot of old memories up and cracked them up. But I think he would have liked the funeral like this. He was a tough guy. He was a proud Marine. He was proud of all his kids, not just Judy and I, but all his kids. He cared for them, and he took care of them for a long time. And I guess so much I could say. I learned a lot of lessons from him. One of the biggest ones, which will probably take me, the hard work ethic. And I don't want to admit the stubbornness, but I could go on, but he'll be missed. I'm glad I spent the past couple of years closer to him. Thanks again. My daughter Sarah wants to say a few things, so she's going to come up, and I think the grandchildren are going to come up with her.
Thank you all for coming to celebrate the life of my grandfather, Julius Block. As many of you know, Julius was a war veteran, a Marine in World War II. He was stationed on the aircraft carrier, the USS Saratoga. He was an honorable man and was awarded a bronze medal when he saved the life of a fellow Marine in a fire. He grew up in Cleveland Heights and came back to Cleveland after the war and ran a successful painting business. Julius accomplished so much in his life, and he always did it his way. He loved travel, planting and gardening, painting, and most of all, some good food, especially Chinese food from the Happy Buddha. I had the good fortune to become much closer to him in the last few years of his life. I got to know him and ask him questions, and he shared stories about his life with me. He was able to come to my wedding and be there while I married the one I love, and that meant so much to both Grandpa and I. He loved talking with my husband and I about our honey and bees. He would always save the jars for us for the next year. He would come over to my parents' house every Sunday, which he greatly looked forward to, and they would eat delicious meals together. Though he may not have acknowledged how much the little things meant to him, I know they truly did. He loved talking to any of his kids or grandkids and looked forward to those phone calls or visits. I recently had looked after him when my parents were away in Alaska, and he and I were chatting about my dad, Kenny. They saw each other every single day, and he looks at me and says, "I miss Kenny." Julius could definitely bicker with his kids, but he truly loved each one of them. Grandpa was totally himself and with it for his full life, which is all any of us could hope for. He lived where he wanted to live, drove when he wanted to drive, and as we all know, said what he wanted to say. We can all admire a 94-year-old man who entered into the afterlife on his own terms, in his own house, in his own bed, with his kids at his side. Today we celebrate his life, the life of a courageous, respectable man. May he rest in peace and his legacy live on forever. I love and will miss you, Grandpa.
Thank you very much. That was very meaningful. We're going to recite the memorial prayer, and then we'll do the kriya, the rendering of the tie and the scarves. If I can ask those of you who are sitting to stand, and those who are standing to sit. No. Everybody to stand. El molei rachamim shoichem b'amroimim amtzei menucha nechoino al kanfei hashchino b'malois kedoshim utoirim kizoy harakia mazirim es nishmas Yehuda ben Moshe sholach li olamoi ba'avur shanachnu mispalilim ba'ad askaras nishmosoi Began Eden tehemunu chasoi lochein balo rachamim yastirei b'seisei knofov lo'lamim v'yitzor b'tzorachem nishmosoi adinai unachlosoi v'yanuach b'shalom mishkavoi v'neimar amen. God, full of compassion, who dwells on high, grant proper repose on the sheltering wings of your presence and the lofty levels of the holy and pure who shine like the brightness of the firmament. Unto the soul of Yehuda ben Moshe, Mr. Julius Block, who has gone to his world, for whose memory we pray. May his repose be in paradise. May the Master of Compassion bring him under the cover of God's wings and bind his soul in the bond of life. May the Lord be his heritage. May he repose on his resting place in peace. Let us all respond. Amen. You may be seated.